how do we go about strengthening questions? So this is not an end all be all list, but these are like some things like just to get us thinking about how we could go about doing it for a strengthen argument. So we can strengthen an argument, number one, by finding the flaw and fixing it. So like we talked about earlier, strengthen questions and weaken questions are flawed, right? So a great way to strengthen it would be to identify that flaw and then bring something in that fixes it, right? Probably where this is most like common is correlation causation flaws. Does anybody know what a correlation causation flaw is?
I'm probably gonna butcher it, but is it just because something could happen doesn't mean it has to happen?
That's not correlation causation. What is if I say who's sixth grade science teacher? I had a good sixth grade science teacher, so I'm not actually making fun of her, but she's like, just because two things are related doesn't mean one is causing the other, right? So that's a correlation causation flaw. So it's whenever there's two things that are related, but we act as if one is causing the other. Does that make sense? Like, do you have this is probably the second most common flaw on the LSAT. Let's think of like, so for example, like if you work out more, you will lose weight. Those two things are related, right? So if you're working out more, you're also losing weight. Does that mean for sure that working out more is what's causing you to lose more weight? For sure? Michael's like, yeah, because he's like in common sense world, absolutely. But if this was a correlation causation flaw, what is the issue here?
Just because you work out doesn't mean you're going to lose weight. Because if you work out and eat more, you're not going to do anything.
Right. Well,
me.
but this is what's happening.
Yeah.
We're saying like, what if I said, this study shows there's a correlation between working out more and losing weight. Does that mean that working out more is what's causing them to lose weight?
No.
No, what else could be causing it?
Their diet.
They're excellent. Maybe people that work out more are just naturally healthier or like more health conscious, and their diet is actually what's causing them to lose weight. We could have does that make sense? So if we were going to fix this though, so we see this flaw here, we're like, oh, correlation causation, I see that. What new information could we bring in that would fix it and make it so that actually working out more is what's causing us to lose weight? What could we say? And don't overthink it. I know this is kind of hard, but.
You said they've been following like a regimen where it's like they're eating the same and working out the same.
Yes, everything's the same. Somehow to say, or even saying that everything else is the same for these people. By removing all of that, we're strengthening that idea that this is what it is. I actually like this example that we're talking about losing weight better than the ice cream example. So I'm going to go ahead and keep on with this one for a second. Another way that we can strengthen an argument is by denying an alternative possibility. So I want you to think about this for a second and put your answer in the chat. If I said that our argument is, oh, if you work out more, let me say work out more, you will lose more weight. What would denying an alternative possibility look like to strengthen this conclusion? Go ahead and type it and put it in the chat. Okay, Jermaine, you are right, but I want you to think more about denying the alternative possibility rather than lifting this one up on a pedestal.
Okay. So it would be essentially finding a way to find the flaw in this, or?
So let's talk about denying an alternative. Someone said it like, say, it's the weight loss is not caused by eating healthy. We're denying another possibility of what could be causing the weight loss. Do we see that?
Okay, that makes sense now.
We're denying an alternative possibility. What if I said, let me think of another argument. I want to get a pet, therefore I'm going to get a dog. What would denying an alternative possibility be to strengthen the idea that I should get a dog?
That you're allergic to all other kinds of pets.
Excellent. So it doesn't, yes, that's a great one. I'm allergic to cats. Birds are too loud. I can't afford a llama, like all the things. It doesn't guarantee our conclusion, right? But it makes it a little bit stronger by eliminating another choice. Do we see how that works? How this could be a potential? Another way we can strengthen it is by promoting the evidence's relevance to the conclusion. So this is actually more like, it's hot outside, so we should get ice cream. Right now, we don't know what being hot outside has anything to do with getting ice cream. So what could we say that would promote our evidence and why it's relevant to the conclusion?
You said it's hot outside and ice cream cools you down, therefore you should go get ice cream.
Yeah, the best thing to do when it's hot outside is get ice cream. Or everyone's like, we're showing why it matters, why being hot outside matters. So the next one is supporting the evidence validity. So this one isn't super common for a strengthened question, to be honest. It's more common for a weakened question, but this is like, if there was some kind of like bias or there was some kind of issue with our study, we could repeat a study and sorry, I'm going to re-say this so it's a little bit more clear. In order for this to be the way that we're going to go about strengthening it, typically the flaw has to be like a bias flaw or a sample flaw of the argument. And then we would fix it by bringing in a new study that does that. It doesn't do, if our original argument does not have a flawed study, repeating the study that says the same thing doesn't do much. This is a trap answer many times. Has anybody ever fallen for this on the test before? Where you're like, well, it can't hurt it that they did it again and it worked. Like, but if we already knew it and it was a good study, typically redoing it doesn't strengthen it unless there was a flaw. So maybe it was, my 5-year-old daughter's friends all think Frozen is the best movie in the world. Therefore, Frozen is the best movie in the world. That argument has a sample flaw, right? Is my 5-year-old daughter and her friends a good indicator of what everybody in the world thinks? No, but I could strengthen that by bringing in another study that said the same results were shown by, I don't even know, like some popular movie article said that it's the most popular movie. That would be a way that would happen. And then lastly, this one is just the most simple. I throw it in there because it can happen. Just if we bring something else in that works, great. So just additional information. So if we said it's hot outside, so we should get ice cream, what is an additional kind of random fact that actually would strengthen this conclusion? I'll start out. The ice cream truck is outside. That strengthens it a little bit, right? What's another one?
Would it be out of scope if you said something like an additional fact that every time it's hot outside, ice cream is free? So we should get ice cream.
If that were true, that would strengthen it for sure. Like, you can't really be out of scope on this. Maybe I have a gift card to get ice cream, or it's National Ice Cream Day. I mean, these aren't great. I mean, this is kind of a silly example, but you can kind of see why these additional facts are strengthening it. Does anybody have any? Oh, perfect.
Could we also say that like as suggested by studies, people who eat ice cream on hot days are happier?
It's close, but why do we care about being happy?
Oh, okay. So that's like another premise that we don't want.
Yeah. Do you see you're bringing in another thing where I'm like, well, why does being hot outside matter? Why does ice cream matter? Why does being happy matter?
Yeah.
Clearly in life, we care about being happy, but on the LSAT, I feel so bad. There's certain questions where I'm like, we don't care about these people. Like, I feel like you have to have like this harsh attitude to be like, well, I feel like it's really with governments and it's like free thought questions. And I'm like, maybe the government should have absolute control over it. Like, yeah.
It trains you that way. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Which is good because in law school, I joke, I say like, what I think literally doesn't matter in law school. I just read the case and like pull out the rule of law and I'm like, this is what it said. Okay. Like I can't have an opinion. Okay. So our approach, so this is for you, Michael, about how we're going to go about these questions. We're going to start off like necessary assumption questions where we're going to read the stimulus. We're going to find the conclusion. And then we're going to take a second to try to think of like, can we figure out what the flaw is? Sometimes this is a step that not all of us will be great at first. And if we're not super strong with flaws, and we don't think of it, then we're just going to go to predicting what would strengthen it, like what additional information we could come into. We always are going to make predictions before we look at the answer choices. And this is a skill that the more you invest in it, the more it's going to help you. Even though it's going to be hard. Lindsay, how has your predicting come? Because I feel like you struggled with predicting too a little bit.
I definitely did struggle with it. Like when I first started studying, I didn't even predict. Then after the boot camp, like some of them, it definitely comes easier to me on some or others, or like I'll get an idea and then none of the answer choices match my idea. But I'm definitely like getting better at it and I'm still actively working at it.
Do you feel like predicting helps you? Like even if your prediction isn't there, your prediction helps you go in the right direction?
It does because it helps me just like compile everything I just read. So I'm just like, okay, this is basically what I'm looking for.
It keeps you active. Like so much of this, how many people like read stuff and they get bored and they're like, I don't know. Or like if you kind of have these checkpoints, it's like you're keeping your brain active. Okay, I have to find the conclusion. I have to make a prediction. They're all little games. That's why I like LR. It's like I have a very ADHD brain and I love LR because each individual question is like a new game. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and read this one and find our conclusion. So go ahead and take a minute and just give me a reaction of once you've found the conclusion. Go ahead. All right, so we're saying a recent study suggests that Alzheimer's disease, which attacks the human brain, may be caused by a virus. This is a big thing. Just in case you don't know this, whenever we have double commas, you can cross off for a second what's in the middle and read it without it to find your true subject of the sentence. So this says a recent study suggests that Alzheimer's disease may be caused by a virus. That's easier for my brain to comprehend than the da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. So which we're saying then we're describing that the Alzheimer's disease attacks the human brain. In the study, blood from 11 volunteers, each of whom had the disease, was injected into rats. The rats eventually exhibited symptoms of another degenerative neurological disorder, CJ disease, which is caused by a virus. Okay, so we're saying that we took this blood of these people that had Alzheimer's disease and we put it into rats, and then the rats got this other disease, which is caused by a virus. This led the scientists who conducted the study to conclude that Alzheimer's disease might be caused by a virus. So what is our conclusion here, Michael?
I mean, I'm kind of debating between like either the first sentence or maybe a recent study suggests that Alzheimer's disease may be caused by a virus.
I think it's repetitive. This is like one of those weird situations where I think that the first sentence and the last sentence are saying the same thing. The second sentence is more, yeah, do you see that? Like, I think like a recent study suggests that Alzheimer's may be caused by a virus. And then this is what led them to believe that Alzheimer's disease might be caused by a virus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So why Kennedy, are we saying that Alzheimer's disease might be caused by a virus?
Because we did a study, or scientists did a study, and they tested it, and they found that there were symptoms of, I don't know, hold on. Because I always read it as like, so I found that the conclusion was the last sentence, and then I said why, and I went back up to like a recent study suggests, but then you kind of said that they were the same thing, so I got a little, it kind of
Do you see why
made
they're
me
the same
question the
thing?
whole thing. Yeah, I see now.
Okay, so we're saying that it might be caused by this because we did this study where we took this blood from these 11 people that had Alzheimer's disease and put it into rats. And then the rats got this other disorder that we know is caused by a virus. So let's call Alzheimer's disease, disease A, and let's call the other disease, disease C. So we took the blood from people with disease A, we put it into rats, and rats got disease C, and we know disease C is caused by a virus. Are we good?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay, so what is the flaw of this argument? Or do you think it's valid?
The sample size.
Okay, the sample size. I think there's a bigger flaw though, actually.
That we're basing our conclusion on another study, right? That was kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, kind
That
of.
might be
There's an
far-fetched.
issue with this. There's a bigger issue with the study than what both of you were alluding to. Like, take out the study for a second and think about like what this study is showing us. And does what this study is showing us matter?
So there could be like alternative reason for the rats to get this disease.
Yeah, okay. Does A have or does A have anything to do with, does A disease have anything to do with C disease?
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, okay, cool. They got C disease, which is from a virus, but why does that mean that A disease is caused by a virus? Like, we don't just get to say like that. That's like me saying, oh, well, you have strep throat and he has, I don't know, lung cancer. Well, strep throat like came from this virus, so lung cancer must have came from this virus. Like, I can't just say that because there's an overlap, right? That might be a terrible example. I couldn't think of a better example, so I apologize. But if we're going to fix this flaw or bring in something that's going to strengthen it, so now we're actually we're like building up our friend here. So this is like if our friend was saying this to people and you're like, oh, that sounded bad, but you want to like jump up and save the day so your friend doesn't look silly. That's what we want to treat strengthen questions of, like, we're on this team and we want to do whatever it takes to strengthen it. So what would strengthen the idea that Alzheimer's disease actually might be caused by a virus? So go ahead and type your answer into the chat, what your prediction is. All right, so which of the following, okay, so we have our conclusion. What do you think about A, Smerlene?
I think A would weaken it.
Yeah, that's like the opposite of what we're looking for, right? Excellent. All right, Michael, what do you think about B?
I crossed that out.
Yeah, I'm like this is like, do we care that it only like nerves in the limbs, not their brains? Like, unfortunately, we're like, sorry, we don't care. All right, Kennedy, what do you think about C?
I cross C out because I feel like it also like weakens it because we're trying to compare say that the two viruses basically are like the same.
Yeah, excellent.
And so if it has no effect on humans, then we can't say that.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't give us a reason of why C and A are related at all. All right, Kiana, what do you think about D?
D was actually my contender.
Oh, why?
So I thought that because it's saying manifestations of the same disease, it's telling me that like they could be the same.
Yes.
And
Okay. Low key, manifestations is a huge word in law school.
okay.
Like just so you know, like you're gonna like manifestation and reasonable standard, you're like, so everything is like, so like a contract, it's like a willingful manifestation to enter into a bargain, or a willingness of the like, or so sorry, I'm just saying this, like you're gonna see that like
No, it's okay.
all over that, like all like I'm like, whenever I struggle for a definition, I'm like, okay, does it start with a manifestation? So, but yeah, we're saying that these two diseases are like just different ways that the root of it comes out, right? So if we have this disease here, it can come out like as the A disease, or it can come out as the C disease.
Yeah.
I like that. All right. And then what about E, Jermaine?
So this was the other contender that I had from D&E, but I didn't like it that much because it was saying that from VATs without the CJ disease produce no symptoms, and I don't think that's any relevance to.
Right. So what, like, let's think about what E means for, did anybody else struggle with E a little bit? So let's think about what it means. So it says blood from rats without CJ produce no symptoms of that disease when injected into other experimental rats. So if you don't have CJ, if you don't have disease C, I'm going to take your blood and I'm going to put it into other rats, and they also don't get CJ. Does that do anything to strengthen the idea that Alzheimer's comes from a virus?
No.
No, it just means that like the C disease didn't transfer to another one with the C disease. These original rats still have the C disease, but we're trying to show why A and C are related. It doesn't matter that those that don't have C also don't transfer C, because like who knows why these don't have C? Maybe there's something else for why they don't. Does that make sense?
Okay, that makes more sense.
So pretty much would it be because like we just don't really care about other rats?
Right.
In a
And they don't,
sense.
yeah. I think why this one is tempting for people is they think, well, that must mean that A is what gave this to these rats.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But like, do we get, but you're falling into the trap of, we don't even know that that's where these rats got it from. Do you see
Gotcha.
that?
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense explained that way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I can totally, like, that's a trap answer for sure. Medical doctors, sleep deprivation is the cause of many social ills, ranging from irrationality to potential dangerous instances of impaired decision-making. Okay, so we're saying that sleep deprivation is a cause of these things, and it can be from just being irritable to having impaired decision-making. Most people, which what does most mean? Does anybody know? Dun, dun, dun.
More than 50%.
Yes,
Nearly all.
more than 50%. And this, I kid you not, we had a whole law school writing class on the definitions of words like shall, may, and, or, most, some. So you're going to be ahead of the game. So more than 50% of people today suffer from sleep deprivation, to some. So it's just saying to like at least 1 degree. I mean, that doesn't quite make sense, but we can kind of see the point there. Therefore, we should restructure the workday to allow people flexibility in scheduling their work hours. All right, so what is the flaw here? What did we think? What do you think, Smerlene?
I just thought that rescheduling the flexibility in work hours doesn't like conclude that you're gonna have like less sleep deprivation.
Okay, I think you broke up a little bit, but I think what you said is like, why does allowing people flexibility guarantee that they're not going to suffer from sleep deprivation? Is that what you said? I think that's what you said, which is great.
That's what I said. Yeah. Okay.
So what was let's say, who wants to share their prediction? Kennedy, did you have a prediction of what would strengthen this idea? Okay, so we said the flaw, but now we want to bring in an answer that's going to strengthen that we should allow people flexibility.
Yeah, that's kind of the route I took, was I just kept, because I kind of struggled on this question, not gonna lie. I got stuck between like a couple of answers, but I just kept asking myself like why why do we need to give them flexibility? So I knew going into the answer choices that I would need something that kind of like closed that gap or
Shows
filled
what
that.
gap? Shows that flexibility what? Because you're so like I could like you know it, but like what specifically do we need flexibility to allow or create?
Like we need flexibility to fix our problem of having sleep deprivation.
Yes, we need flexibility to lead to less sleep deprivation, right?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. So no, there are some tricky wrong answers here. Jermaine, what did you say for A?
So I thought that A didn't really kind of fix the flaw here. I don't
How
think
many
it was.
were tempted by A? I mean, I can like if you were, don't feel bad. Like it has some good words, but it doesn't get to our root. And explain why this is wrong, Jermaine.
So when they talk about overworked, there was nowhere that I read that they talked about overwork. It just said the restructure of the workday. But
Right, but what if we brought this in and we're like, yeah, but the number one cause of sleep deprivation is being overworked. This is the issue, is they're overworked. Well,
Okay.
it's still wrong though.
would it be that well, if we restructure the day of how many hours that they work, if they're overworked by the hours worked, the sleep deprivation wouldn't be fixed, if that makes any sense.
I think you might be saying the right thing, just not quite as specific as I would like. Does anybody else want to add to that of why this is wrong? So just because the primary cause of sleep deprivation is being overworked, does that mean that if we allow people more flexibility, it's going to make them all of a sudden not overworked? Not necessarily, right? So do we see how like it's hinting at this idea of like, oh yeah, work is what's causing it. But if we don't fix the problem or do anything about it, like we could potentially have the same problem with people having flexible schedules, right? Do you see that, Jermaine? I think that you were getting at it. Like, I think you like.
Yeah, my thought was like if somebody has to work 10 hours a day, even if you break up those 10 hours, you might still be overworked. So like you would still be sleep deprived. But I think yours makes a lot more sense because how I was wording it kind of was confusing.
But I like that we're making you think about it. All right, Michael, what did you think about E as an egg?
I think I kind of put that as a contender, but I also had other answer choices. So like the reason why I put that as a contender is because I mean like it has to do with like flexibility around like rescheduling. Well, not necessarily rescheduling, but like also
What does
like
E
fixing up
mean?
their hours maybe.
What does E mean in your own words? Essentially, what is E saying?
Wait, did you say B or E?
E is an egg. Sorry.
Oh shit. Or shoot.
You're fine.
Sorry. I well, what's funny is that I
Okay,
actually
that makes
crossed
me
out
feel better of
E
what you were
as
saying compared to E. I was like, okay, explain to me what E is saying to you, because that's not what E is saying to me.
okay.
You were referring to B. Okay, so tell me about E. What do you think
Yeah.
of E?
The extent of I actually crossed out E because
Mhm.
the extent of one's sleep deprivation is one's workday.
You're right. You crossed it. You were right to cross it off, but why?
Okay, well, because like the reason why I crossed it off is because it has to do some. Well, this answer choice, like I would think is like it's not just like irrelevant, but like it like it's just talking about like an individual, like one individual's like sleep deprivation. Like what if
So they're saying
what about the other ones?
yeah, so they're saying that our sleep deprivation is proportional to the length of one's workday. So if we work 10 hours a day, like your sleep deprivation is going to reflect that. Or if you only work 5 hours, your sleep deprivation is going to reflect that. But the length of one's workday, does that do anything when we're saying, okay, we're allowing flexibility, but if you still are working 10 hours, just more flexible, is your sleep deprivation going to change? Not necessarily. So that's why this is where it's like, this is just spreading out the problem.
Would you say that like A and E basically kind of say the same thing in a sense? In like different ways, but they're kind of talking about the same thing.
They don't solve the problem in the same way.
Gotcha.
Like, you know, like they're both hinting at like, oh, they're related. They both like hint at the fact that they're related, but it's not showing us why this should be the solution. All right. Who wants to go over D as in dog for us? Kennedy.
I like how those two were like my
Oh,
contenders.
Kiana, yeah, go for it, Kiana.
No, I don't want to go. A and E were my contenders, so I don't think I have the right idea of this question.
More people would suffer. Okay, I'll do D. So D says more people would suffer from sleep deprivation today than did in the past if the average number of hours worked per week had not decreased. Does that matter? No.
We don't really care about like the people in the past.
Yeah, sorry, people in the past. Like that's why I said we have to be cruel on this test as we're reading it. We have to be critical. All right, C says individuals vary widely in the amount of sleep they require. Does that matter? Nope, that does nothing. All right, so then B says employees will get more sleep if they had greater latitude in scheduling their work hours. What does this do for us? Kennedy?
It kind of, like I was saying earlier, it bridges the gap by talking about people having more flexibility and connecting it to like sleep. So if it kind of fixes our problem of like sleep deprivation. Wow, I cannot say that word.
Yeah,
Because if they can schedule their sleep, or if they can schedule their work hours, then they might like get more sleep.
Not might, it's even stronger than this.
They will if they
have greater latitude. Flexibility, then more sleep. Like excellent. I love that. That's perfect. That's what we need. It's solving our problem. So that's why B is our answer. Does anybody have any more questions on this question? Is people's confidence going up? Or you're like, no, you're like, I'm getting destroyed.